Good evening. Welcome to Laughing Monkey Music Show, Trayvon Roine Stolt, the Flower Kings. How are you?
Thanks for having me. I'm fine actually. It's
I love
uh
having you
it's
on.
uh, beginning of summer here in Sweden, so it's quite a hot day for being May actually.
Yeah,
But
I'd say
we
what
get
the temperature is, but you guys don't do the temperature in the same degrees here. You get like
oh
Celsius,
no no
right?
no 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 we are Celsius.
Yeah.
Celsius European or at least in Sweden. I don't know about rest of Europe. I think a couple of countries have Celsius, but I know it's Fahrenheit in America.
Yeah. It's getting
Yeah.
warm here too. It's beautiful. Well, we actually have a rainy holiday, so
Mhm.
it's fun to be able to talk to you and catch up. We find time across the
Yeah.
globe to talk about some music, live album.
Sure. Yeah.
Got a little treat in my mailbox from you the other day, and I've been listening to it since then. You have a live album out recorded last year. Let's talk about it. The
Yeah.
so
And when you say last year, it sounds like it was forever ago, but it's actually just a couple of months.
well, yeah, I
That's the
didn't.
way I
I
it's
I
it's
know.
uh, it's pretty much now for me, but because I mean, and to be honest, I put in a lot of work in I mean recording a live album. That's fine. That's
Right.
just one night on tour, and towards the end of the tour, the band started sounding great. So we don't have to do a lot of
Right.
fixes and stuff like that. So it's the music is fine, but then it's all the balancing of making the drum sound good and making the stereo field of the guitars and everything, to tweak all the little bits, and that actually makes a big difference, I think.
What's the difference you find for balancing making a live album and keeping it live with going in and correcting the sound nuances so it's a little easier, sonically. You know what I'm saying? Without losing part of the live
Yeah, I
sound.
mean, if you're recording a studio album, then you have the freedom to sort of create acoustics, like let's say you can add reverbs and room sounds, etc., to make it sound like you're in a hall. Because what
Right.
you're doing when you're recording a studio album is you put a microphone close to the amp. It's like a nice studio microphone like this one. You
Yeah.
can sing into that one, but on stage you have like these Shure microphones or whatever, a Bayer or something like that, and it's a completely different microphone that picking up sounds from behind, so from the amps and from the drum kit, etc. So everything blends in every open mic on stage in the drum kit. You can hear a little bit of bass, you can hear a little
Okay.
bit of guitar amps, etc. Whereas in the studio, you're adding bits and pieces, and
Right.
so everything is separated. And then, I mean, to be true, it's actually, I think one of the great things about live recordings, you have microphones in the room too,
Mhm.
to capture the audience a bit, but also to get a room sound where, it's I mean, just imagine having just one microphone. Let's say you go to a concert and you hold up your mobile phone.
Right.
And that's one kind of a sound. If the band sounds great, if you do that on a Peter Gabriel concert, it's going to sound great. But if you go down to a small club, where the sound is not so good, it's
Right.
probably not going to sound so good. So just to find the right balance for me to keep it alive, to really
Mhm.
make it sound like a live album. It's a fine tuning of the how much would you use of the room actually, or the audience microphones, and how much will you use from what's coming from the
Right.
stage.
Pulling in the ambient sound to help warm it up a little bit from everybody.
Oh yeah, I mean, and even things like how would you filter the ambient sounds? Because if you have lots of treble on it, it could sound squashy,
Right.
the cymbals and stuff like that, or the syllables from the vocals in the PA system and stuff like that. But when you're standing in a room and you're listening to a rock band, and in
Right.
particular, I would say you're listening to a rock band and band like the Flower Kings, we use lots of Moog bass, really low frequencies rattling, in the room.
Hmm.
We want to keep a little bit of that, so if you have the album and you play it a little bit louder on your system, you're going to feel a little bit of the low end as if it was in the room, you know. So yeah, so it's a little
Yeah.
bit different
Well,
from.
I guess the question, and because it's interesting, because like remember back in the 70s, like when you had like a band like Kiss, we were like live album, and it was just like live. It wasn't really live.
Mm.
This is, you know what I'm saying. So I guess my point is like to keep the live sound, and you can't. I've seen recordings online actually of YouTube that people tried with a phone. You're one of the bands that I think it actually it's hard to capture the sound with the phone because you have such a soundscape is so wide.
Oh yeah, yeah,
I don't
yeah.
think like I think with a straight rock and roll band, I've done it. And I've got some really great sounds. But I don't know if it's because of the maybe because of the frequency of the bass and the keyboards, and I think it pushes out even further. That I don't hear anything really doing any kind of justice. It just sounds really bad, you know.
Mm.
And usually you can kind of get away with it. I think it's that's why this live album sounds a billion times better. It's it
I
feels like
mean,
it's
we've
breathing,
done, done a
you know.
couple of live albums before, and it's, I mean, anything from we did. I think we did like something that was tracked to 16 channels back in the late 90s,
Right.
recorded in Canada. You know, nothing special, but we managed to mix it in a way so it sounded pretty okay. A little bit over compressed when I listen now, but. And then we did some other recording in Holland, maybe in the 2000s, something like that. We did one with when we had Pat Pastelotto playing drums,
Yep.
and that was lots of sounds coming in from his drum kit and the electronics he had, and Thomas Bodin had a million synths, you know, and so that was
I'll
tricky
bet.
to mix. And that also had, of course, the video, you know. So lots to take into consideration when mixing that, but just my gut feel is that this was probably the live recording I felt was most natural and representing the band the way we sound on stage
Yeah.
without you know, too much of artificial reverbs. There's, of course, there's reverbs and delays, but that's what it is on stage too, you know, in the
Yeah.
PA system. Yeah.
It's a good album. So is this the exact obviously 'cause I didn't see you guys, is this the exact set list you guys are doing for the tour, or do you throw songs in and out? Like who do you come up with this list for the
Uh,
album itself?
well, yeah, I mean, we decided to make just like a single CD. There's another maybe 5 or 6 songs that's not included on the CD, but we didn't want to do a double. We have done so
No?
many doubles, as you know. So
Yeah.
it's like typical Flower Kings thing, you know, to, oh, let's make a double live album. We didn't want to do that this time. We keep it down, use the best songs and the songs that had not been on live albums before, or in a maybe in a completely different versions, you know. Things came out very different. We have, for instance, Big Puzzle on this one we did on another album, but they sound very, this one sounds much more dynamic than what we
Yeah.
did back in the day. So that's the criteria. So to make something that's new or that's different.
I mean, because also, I mean, your songs aren't very short, so it's not like, in all fairness, I mean, to do a full album, like a double album is like the same amount of songs most people would. I mean, you have like a 12-minute song. You don't have any 2-minute songs blasting through.
No, that's true. That's true, you know.
So,
And I mean, some of these songs we even stretch out a little bit more, you know, like Big
right.
Puzzle, for instance. That's stretching out to the longer guitar solo, you know. But that's something that happens once and it's unique and it's that one night, you know. And that's what I personally, if I buy a live album, I don't want to hear replicas of the studio version completely, you know. Whatever. If
No, I
if if,
agree.
if a band can reproduce, yeah, that's clever. That's good. But then I can listen to the studio albums. I want something that's added,
Right.
some whatever. And I mean, on this one, Lale does a couple of really beautiful piano things,
Mhm.
improvs that really, I think, adds so much to the album.
I was happy to see the Dream on it. Something that showed up on it too. On
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah,
a little newer. It's
yeah.
he's choosing some of the songs, a little something old, something new. It's still it's an hour and 21 minutes, so it's still a long. For just being one album or CD or
Oh,
whatever, it's still a good piece of time for you guys. Coming in at 6 songs.
Yeah, I think it's totally fine. I think
Oh,
it's
I do too.
totally enough
I
as
like
it
that. I
is.
like no,
Yeah,
I like to
yeah,
invest in time. I'm saying like when I listen to something, I want to just listen to it. So I'm
yeah,
happy that it was, as long as it was. It goes by
yeah.
fast too. It doesn't. It has a nice hum to it. You know.
Yeah, yeah. I think a little bit of that has to do with the variation, the dynamics, and it's been a long, long road too. And I mean, over the years, I always been the annoying guy in the rehearsal room, asking the guys, "Can we work on the dynamics, please? Can we do this? Can we maybe take it down here?" And sometimes you just see these faces, and they're thinking, "What? It sounds great. What's wrong? What's wrong?" No, nothing is wrong. It's just like, can we, if we take down on this section, then the next one's gonna sound much more powerful. That's the way it works, with
Right.
classical music. The way it's written into the music, the way it's like the dynamic progress of a bigger piece of music, and that's can be so powerful. Sometimes you use it in the movie scores. You can feel it
Yeah.
like there's something, the light goes down. There's like a moment in the movie when it's just like a tiny string or something like that,
Right.
or a like flute, and then comes this big bombastic wall of sound,
Ooh.
and it really helps the movie, and I think it helps the music, and it helps our music. I mean, regardless of what other bands do, there's so many bands out there playing great, but the dynamics, it's pretty much full on from start to finish, and that
Right.
I think would be more, to my ears, more tiring to listen to than a set of songs that's coming up and down with
Well,
with the dynamics.
it does serve more of a soundscape the way you do it, and I think. Do you think? And actually, you answer even more so. Obviously, you being your own production, your own producer. Do you think you
Mm.
listen to these as you're doing more songs with your producer ears when you're with everything at this point? Like even as you're writing and putting albums together, you're already thinking two things ahead, not just as the writer and the band member. You're thinking
Oh
as a
yeah, yeah,
producer. You know what I'm saying? Are you
yeah,
thinking,
yeah. In Sweden we say we're sitting on two chairs, you know.
yes, exactly. You're two
Yeah,
steps ahead of
kind of.
yourself. You know,
Yeah, because I'm the musician. I'm a player. I'm a guitar player. I'm a singer, but a producer, and I'm also, I feel, responsible for the whole the idea of the Flower Kings,
right?
what I wanted it to be, in the beginning. And it's been a long way, and we come to this point, and it's kind of fulfilling to listen to this now, the way the band sounds, and more to my understanding, more like a full grown or grown up band of musicians,
Right.
you may say so.
Well, and I think it's shown, and I think your production skills are great, and I think it shows on this album like it does in your other stuff. Um, Actually, where did it say it was produced? Is that the name of your studio? Yeah, what
Sorry?
was it called? In the Cosmic Lodge, mixed Cosmic Lodge. Is that your studio?
That's my studio.
The,
Yeah.
the name of it, the Cosmic Lodge. Okay, I
Cosmic
saw that.
Lodge. Yeah.
Cool, cool. Good name. Good name. Well, the thing is, so you have a lot of other. There's a lot of reissues going on. A lot. You got your hands kind of cleaning things up, changing things around. But
Mhm.
there's actually some new music coming out too. We'll talk about that too. Actually, let's talk about new CD with Merritt Hemmingson
Oh yeah,
called
yeah,
Mother Earth
yeah.
Forever. Let's kind of. I don't know a lot about that, so maybe you can kind of lead me into that one. That's good.
Oh yeah, yeah. And that's a very special one because that's something that actually was started even before the Flower Kings. I was
Cool.
commissioned to produce an album with a female organ player that has been around since the mid 60s, actually. She started out as a Hammond player, I would say pretty much in the style of the great Hammond players like McGriff, brother
Yeah.
Jack McGuff, etc. Jimmy Smith, these Hammond organ players from the 60s, 50s, 60s. So that's how she fell in love with the sound of the Hammond organ.
Hmm.
And so she recorded in the beginning of the 70s, she recorded a couple of albums with the Swedish folk music, played on Hammond organ.
Okay.
And I was one of the guys that bought the album because I heard it at a friend's place, and
Yeah.
Saturday evening, we had a party, and I was just mesmerized by this strange music, folk music
Yeah.
played on a Hammond organ with the beat, with drums and everything. Not really any, probably guitars, but
Right.
the electric guitar wasn't in the front. It was the Hammond
Mhm.
organ that was in the front. And she was also singing like wordless, no lyrics, just singing, to the Hammond organ.
Yeah.
And I go by this album, and this is the album that I play all the time, And I was at the time not yet electric guitar player. I played the acoustic guitar, but then I was commissioned to play bass guitar in my friends who was a better guitar player. We put together a band like a trio with bass,
Yeah.
drums, and guitar, and I got to play the bass guitar. And I have to say that the album from Mary Hemmingson was my education in terms of bass playing, but also in terms of understanding harmonizing music. And when I say I see all your guitars on the wall, so
Yes.
and your amp,
Yeah.
so you understand when I say there's a melody, but there's also harmonizing. So if you
Mhm.
play a Beatles song, you can play maybe it with three chords, or you can play Yesterday with all the chords.
Right.
And that's what makes the song beautiful, the melody, but also the way they harmonize. And lots of Beatles songs has that, lots of great jazz music has it, lots of classical
Yeah.
music. The melody is just one part, and that's something I learned from Merritt's way of arranging music, this folk music. Take the simple folk music themes and the way she put harmonies to it. So I was just probably a couple of hours a day one summer in 1970. I was with my bass guitar learning this album
That
inside and
album.
out, time after time. Yeah. And then she recorded another album the next year, and I bought that one too. So this is something that stayed with me, and what was, I would say, my kind of education in terms of arranging and harmonizing music, that
Oh
later
wow.
came in with handy with Kaipa, with all the other bands I've been
Right.
doing. So I have to say that Merit has been a very important. And I told her, she couldn't know, but I told her, well, this is in a way you're responsible for the music I'm making now with the Flower Kings and and Kaipa and all that. Because that was my sort of, she opened up my view or my eyes
Right.
for how I can harmonize music, and write melodies, of course, and the way you can incorporate folk music themes, Swedish folk music themes in general. So anyway, fast forward, and then I get commissioned to produce an album with Merit in 1992, I think. So we do, and we bring in all these musicians, and we
Yeah.
have lots of different, lots of organ, but this time a lot of pipe organ also. But there's like Hammond organ, there's electric pianos. We bring in wind instrument like soprano saxophones, beautiful player, and other like medieval. I don't know what you call it, the hurdy-gurdy, hurdy-gurdy.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, the violin thing that you, yeah,
Yeah.
you know the
I know
thing.
very. I know the name. I know it. I know the name. I know very little about it though. Like this.
All right, right, right. Yeah, they call it the hurdy-gurdy. We
Yeah.
call
Yeah.
it, we have lira in Swedish. Anyway,
Oh.
and different medieval flutes and stuff like that. So we bring in that and produce an album that never got any release because it was the timing was totally wrong. Every record label in Sweden, they were looking for people with big hair like Duran
Yeah.
Duran, that kind
Yeah.
of thing, and people who were singing to drum machines and stuff like that. And we did an album with real musicians, with a little bit of different musicians, and even with the pipe organ. So no one wanted to sign the album. But it's been lying there all the time. And Merit and I, we kept in contact over the years. And she's been doing many, many albums. And she's been awarded lots of very fine prizes in Sweden, into the Swedish Hall of Fame, blah blah blah, etc. Sold lots of albums. But this recording just been lying around, and I just called her up and said, "Well, I got to release this before I die." It's just lying. It's great. I listened to it again. I said, "It's great. I can do a master of this, and let me just release it, and then see what happens." I have no big expectations, but I think I can get a few copies out in the world, and it's
Yeah,
people get your music and Swedish folk music, and for a very unique album, I think.
I'm
So
excited to hear
that's
it. I want to go back and hear the first album too, the way you sold it. I want
oh
to.
yeah 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 yeah
I checked on the first one. Now
yeah.
yeah, I want to hear it all now. Pretty
Oh,
exciting.
totally, totally. It's mesmerizing. I love it. I love it.
So this is the album you recorded '92, and
Yeah, yeah, right, right, right. And I was lucky because I was working actually with in a studio with the former bass player of Kaipa, and he had a studio in our hometown, and we got to work in that studio,
yeah,
and he was very uh, let's say he was he was very good at recording very pristine sounds with good
yeah,
preamps with the right sounds and careful it's not overloading, etc., etc. So we were working hard with the album actually to make great sounds, and going back now, I think we all felt that, wow, this sounds almost like it could be recorded now. So yes, I mean sometimes if you listen back to other music made in the same
right.
time,
It can be dated.
it's
No, it
like
can be dated.
the drum machines and you hear certain synth sounds, whatever it was popular, I can't remember. The
Yeah,
Oberheims, the Rolands, or you hear
yeah.
the
There's certain
sounds.
sounds.
Oh, you can tell this is from 35 years ago. But for this album, it's like it's really instruments, and you have the pipe organ, you have some Hammond organ, and real drums. So
Hmm.
it's nothing that can tell if it's recorded now or then or even 45 years ago, which is a cool thing, I think.
Yeah,
Timeless,
it
timeless.
is. It is. So actually, is it? Oh, is it out? Is it out too? Right? I'm looking. Is that out too? The Flower
Sorry?
King? Is it? Is it? It's released, right? I'm looking at the date here. It's released. It's already out.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's released. Well, release is like what is released really
Into
today.
the
But
wild. Into
yes,
the wild.
release
I don't
date.
know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, in Sweden, the distributor in Sweden, they had a release. I think the second week of June.
Okay.
But we released it, and we've been sending out to different places to Japan and to United States and to England
Mhm.
and mainland Europe in Germany, etc. So well, I mean, technically the album is already out.
Okay. So people can get that in the website also. They can reach out
Yeah, it,
and
it can be found different places. Whoever is
different.
search on the net will find it.
Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
have to check out. You always have a lot of music going out, and you have some reissues too going out too that you
Oh yeah.
recently. Well, we got coming
Oh
out that
yeah.
people can look forward to. 'Cause, I mean, you are like a machine of
Uh,
music always.
well, in terms of the reissues, it's sometimes a little bit more work, sometimes a little bit less. I try to go back because I have some original tapes, and I'm thinking, oh, what can I do today to make it sound a little better? And that's usually run it through certain analog stuff I
Right.
have, or pick out the very original tape before it was mastered last time. Because what was mastered 35 years ago, the converters we have today are much,
Hmm.
and I have really good converters. So I can make it sound a little bit better, and if there's even things I can remix, make a little bit cleaner or better mix, better balanced. Because a lot of these albums, when they were recorded, there was no automation.
Right.
It's just like a mixer, then you have to work the mixer while
Real.
you were
Yeah.
mixing. You couldn't even, I mean, it was tape. Yes, you can splice the tape and you can tape it, but today you
Laser
can just,
splice. You got to do it in the right
yeah,
angle, and you got chocolate. The chalk on it. Oh yeah.
exactly. That's taking a big risk, and lots of extra work. But I mean, today you can move things around, you can mix a little bit, and then you can mix another bit, and you can concentrate on that, and then you can just splice them together digitally,
Right.
and you can listen, you can compare if there's something that you don't like in the middle of the song. Okay, that was a little bit too much treble or whatever,
Mhm.
too much compressed. You can go back the next day. It doesn't cost me anything, but there was a time when every hour you spent in the studio cost you money. And
How
and
were you
and and
splicing?
sorry, I
How
well
good were you splicing at the time?
I personally didn't splice, but you had your tech guy, who was splicing, and he was nervous. And
Yeah, I learned in college because I was at school for recording right before everything went digital back in
yeah,
'90, and I just
yeah, yeah.
watched that. I never got to use it in the studio because things switched over by the time I was doing stuff. I
Oh
could not
yeah,
believe. I mean, we did it in class. We practiced it and stuff. It was insane. I mean,
yeah,
what a skill level to depend on which way you went, and oh my goodness, people look it
yeah,
up online. I'm sure it's out there how to do it. You can see people do it. It's crazy that they were able to do albums that way. So yeah, did
yeah.
you have
But
control over the writing? I mean, did you have control of all the music from the very beginning to reissue your stuff? Because a lot of artists don't. I mean, you have a lot of
uh,
reissues and remastering that a lot of artists don't do.
yeah, I own all the recordings from the Flower Kings. I
Mhm.
own parts of the Transatlantic. It's like four parts, so it's the other guys and me. We're
Yeah,
the guys in the band on the recordings.
right.
Same thing with the Sea Within, Kaipa. We own everything. I don't own everything, but the drummer owns part of it, and I own the latest studio and
Okay,
the live album that we did a couple of years ago.
okay.
So it's yeah, we have control over the ownership, so to speak, of all that, which is a very good thing.
It's huge. There's a lot of
Yeah.
artists don't have any of this. So the fact you're doing that and all the reissues, it's like, you know, only artists do that once in their career when they get they get everything back at once. They do like a huge remaster or something like later in their
Uh,
career. You know what I'm saying? That's one time you
yeah.
generally see that like this. Whereas you've had control over it and you're going back. But did you do as much production back then, or is it also you've got your own ears and you can kind of go back and go, you know what? Now that I would like to hear it this way. You know, what I mean, clean it up a little bit and punch it up.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I didn't do production, but I think that's not the problem. The problem is that even if I had done production,
Right.
I think I didn't have the ears. I didn't have the
Okay.
understanding then because my thinking was different. And
Mhm.
if you just rewind to, let's say, the mid 80s, I was listening to Frankie Goes to Hollywood or let's say the Tubes, and you listen to whoever produced these. I mean,
Yeah.
Trevor Horn and what's the other guy, the American guy that produced the Tubes, and they was
Oh,
just
yeah.
compression, and they were compressed to hell. But I love that sound then. I loved it then, but I don't
It
love it that much now.
no,
So it's
it's
it's like,
changed.
yeah, it's strange. And then you go back to listen to Beatles albums. Well, let's say you hear Revolver or Sergeant Pepper, and it's just beautifully recorded.
Mhm.
And even some
On
of the
vinyl.
old Stones albums, they sound great. Fleetwood Mac sounds
Yeah.
wonderful.
They hold up. You can't tell as a certain as a listener. I just heard a fun fact the other day that for Frankie Goes to Hollywood when they did the mix for Two Tribes that was their big single, the second big
Oh,
single.
yeah,
I heard it
yeah,
took 2 months in the studio to get the drums right. Just 2 months on the
yeah,
drums for that song.
yeah.
That's unbelievable. You know,
It is. I think it was a time when, as we say, it was they didn't have the tools to do. They wanted to do something that was
right,
you have like a boom, boom, boom,
right.
boom, boom, boom. You can use a drum machine, but if you want to use real drums, I don't know what it is. That song,
Yeah,
probably part drum machine, part just like the Police. I mean, they tracked drums, but they had drum machines and drums, and they merged it together. But for Stuart Copeland to actually play the drums tight enough with the drum machine, it's some people can do it. Some people are
yeah. He
great drummers. They can't really lock it into the grid or the drum machine. I think that might have been a problem with Frankie Goes to Hollywood.
yeah.
I don't know
It's
about that
amazing.
drummer. He's probably okay, but it's just doing that and then having the bass and they well, probably sampled bass, if I remember right, Two Tribes.
Yeah, it's been a while for myself. Now I remember it was a
Uh,
big album, and it's been a long time since I heard it, but it had a good sound
oh
at the
yeah, yeah,
time. But the holdover now, it's like I think just think back on like 2 months to get a sound to get that sound just was like I don't know. I would have settled probably sooner than 2 months into the studio at those prices, back
yeah.
then.
But it's a different thing. It's the same thing with Yes. I mean, Trevor Horn produced some Yes albums. What's the one? 90, 125, I think. The
Yeah,
one with Owner of Lonely Heart
yeah.
and even part of it Big Generator, I think, if I remember right. And it's a very complete, or I would say a completely different sound from, let's say, Topographic Oceans or
Oh
Going
yeah,
for the One. That's a completely different sound.
like a different
And
band.
and I was really impressed with the Big Generator sound at the time, but now looking back, I actually prefer the more organic sounding,
Right.
like Close to the Edge or It's a Beautiful recording.
I do
Also
find myself listening
probably,
to the older stuff. Yeah, more
sorry?
now. That I say I do find myself being a big Yes fan. I do find I listen to
Yeah.
the older albums more than I do the '80s albums. I think I go back to the early ones.
Yeah.
Especially like Tales and
I
Topographic.
mean,
Those are probably my favorite albums.
oh
You
yeah, I mean
know.
it's just I think it's in the end it's all about the music. You can get, I mean, you'll be impressed with the sound of the production uh, at a certain time, because we are here now, and the way people produce, and you listen to all the beautiful sounds, but in the end it's about the songs. It's about the concept, it's about the songs, and where the songs take you. And for me, the Big Generator songs doesn't take me anywhere. It's just like I'm impressed with the playing and everything, the
Right.
very muscular drum sound and Chris Squire's bass, the sounds. But when I listen to Topographic Oceans or Relayer, I'm impressed
Yeah.
by the inventions of the way they play, Patrick Moraz synths and the way Alan White plays beautifully drums. There's so much energy and so much invention, I think, in the music that doesn't sound like any other band.
Yeah.
So that's the strength, I think, and then in the end I realized it doesn't matter. Well, I wouldn't say it doesn't matter, but it does matter less. The sound qualities. It's about the performance, I think, and the songwriting. That's the main thing.
I do think though, if the cleaner it is, an album like that you do, or even this live one, because we're talking about the production on it
Mhm.
is so real and tangible. I feel it's gonna hold up like the older Yes albums in a way over the years. It's not gonna be a dated thing because these are all real sounds that have carried through the years.
Oh yeah,
It's
yeah.
you're not hearing a keyboard and you go, that sounds like the '90s, or that's a you know what I mean. So it does like these albums and some of the reissues. Everything's gonna kind of stay in a nice spot where it's not gonna be dated. It's just gonna be timeless. And
Yeah, yeah, and I mean it's I think sometimes it's a mistake because I mean without naming any band or any
yeah, we don't
musician,
do that.
that I won't do that. But right now there's people out there playing, they're playing to backing tracks, so
Yeah,
they're on stage playing. But whatever you hear, the choir, the synth sounds, the stuff that you hear when
right.
you're standing in the room listening to a band, part of it is actually played, and that's fine. But a
Yeah,
lot of it, what comes out of the speaker is on tape, it's
right.
synced, and that sort of limit the musician to, they cannot stretch the tempo. They have a like a click track going, and yeah, I mean, sitting there or standing there listening to it, it may sound impressive, but it's thinking about it. I remember gigs when things happen at gigs, an amp breakdown
Yeah,
or the drummer has to take a drum solo. I even remember lately Lenny Kravitz. There was something about his trousers happened.
yes,
So
yes.
he had, yeah,
The
maybe you
wardrobe
heard about that.
malfunction there. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that was actually in Stockholm. We
Oh
we
wow.
were on we were on the side watching them, and he suddenly just disappeared, But then the band had to do something, so they started jamming. But if everything is on a sort of
Right.
a tape run with a tape, then it could be a problem, I think. So so
Well, I
I'm
think a
I'm
lot of
I
no,
accept this is where we come to, and with the light show sometimes it's synced. It's a big
yeah,
machine.
but I mean, there's a
But
balance, don't you? I think there's a balance. I think a rock
yeah,
band, like a big rock band, will come out and say like a Def Leppard will come out and say, we have a couple parts here and there. But then we'll also play live. So if nothing breaks down, we're going to play. But we're going to have a sound inserted here in the song. It's not a secret. It's just part of the song that we have the tools we can add it for better performance,
yeah,
but we don't need it.
sure.
When a rock band does that, there's a little bit. It's a little different than a band that's part of their song and the keyboards. Their laptop is part of the stage gear that they need to do the show. That
Yeah,
is not
I
cool. That's no cool. If you want to add a sound to a show that you know the band's live, that's fine. But they can't rely on it. You know what I mean? You can't make or break a band.
yeah.
You can't, you know.
No, no, no. I mean, we saw Peter Gabriel the other year, last year, I think, last
Right.
summer. Could have been last summer. And that was a great show. And I do understand there's stuff that's run, on the time
Right.
frame
But you
and
know,
with the
Peter could
light.
just sit down with a microphone and do a whole show with you dressed like a flower still, and you're gonna love it. So it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think it's a little bit of everything because I mean, there's the drums, the bass, and everything. There's not a lot of sounds,
Right.
not a lot of voices or choir coming up. It's you get the feeling that the band is playing and that's it. And
Right.
I think a big part of the show, that's actually what it is.
Hmm.
And then it may be run parts of it or all of it maybe run on a like a time frame, but
Right.
it's not done in a way that you feel that you're on autopilot, sort of. It's
Manipulated.
actually you feeling they're doing it, but you have a very creative team, doing
Yeah.
lights, doing the images, doing whatever needs to be
Right.
done. So it's very organic, I think. You get a very,
Right.
very organic feel when you look at the Peter Gabriel show, for instance.
Yeah. I guess I'm saying I think it can be done if it's done right, and it's artists doing it in a way to just put a little extra seasoning on the music or something, but not to make it
Mm,
the band's performance. But I still go back to liking it's a live
mm,
album, a live group, live music as much as they can.
mm,
Like you guys and most bands. At this point though,
mm.
when you guys do your songs and perform, how much rehearsal do you have to do the old songs now? Because you've been doing it for so long and you guys are so tight. Is it pretty easy to get back into the groove for tour?
Well, yes and no. I would say it takes time. I mean, we can't be all together in the rehearsal room because we have a drummer from Italy and Lalle is living in the
Yeah,
south of Sweden. Me and Hasse and Michael lives pretty close, so
right.
so we can get together. But well, I would say, I mean, for this tour, actually, from where this concert is taken, we probably rehearsed 5 days, maybe six.
It's not much.
Yeah. No, it's not
It's
much. I
no.
mean, people usually do a month, but we can't do that, and some people have daytime jobs and stuff like that, and
Well, that's the
and
thing. It's
and
interesting to see how long it takes the band
putting
with your stage.
everyone up in a hotel here in it's kind of expensive, and you got to be rehearsing for a month.
Right.
So, but I think we do well, and maybe not the first two shows are perfect, but they're good and they're good enough. And then each and every show is
Right.
sort of you gaining, a lot of confidence, and you can start when you say play the music. Actually, you can play with the songs. If first few shows is you're kind of I wouldn't say scared, but you're a little bit, tense about,
Yeah.
walking on stage, knowing the songs, playing the right notes, singing the right words, etc., etc., and getting used to the sound that we produce on stage. But after a few shows, 4, 5, 6 shows, everything becomes very, very natural. So then it comes to a point where you relax. So it becomes
Well,
more fun, say.
right. There is an added thing. I mean, your music is a different kind of complexity. Like some bands just they rehearse and it's just different for everybody. So it's always just interesting to hear like I know like Twizzle Zappa is getting ready to go on tour, but he's got months of preparation with the band coming in to learn the music and go over it. Like it's months now. DAD from over in your part of the world, good rock band. They don't need that much time to just they know they're so the songs are rock songs are ingrained in them. You know what I mean? So everyone has a different type of music, different time window. So I'm just kind of
Oh yeah,
curious to
yeah.
see. So it's just kind of curious to see how it affects you guys because your music is different complexity and a different type of music. You
It's
know,
I would call it medium complex, you know. I mean, Dweezil Zappa is playing something that's really, and if you're playing whatever weather report or
right?
you're
Yeah.
playing like what's the guy now? The guys, what's the name of the band that's gonna play King Crimson songs with Steve
Oh,
Vai
well, yeah. They're
and
calling themselves. Oh, is it like a King Crimson
Beat?
song too?
Beat.
Beat or Beats or something? Yeah,
It's
it's something in kind of a play.
Beat. Beat. Yeah. And that's super complex. That's super com different time signatures and lots of ostinato stuff
Yeah.
that you learn, you play, and it's just very, very complicated, you know. But I mean, for us, it's like I said, well, we rehearse for maybe 5 or 6 days, uh, but we have to prepare at home before that. So I'm sitting here in my studio, plug in my
Right.
guitar, and I do the songs, and I learn the songs. Once we get to the rehearsals, we know the songs pretty well, you know, and then it's just about, talking about tempos, talking about, as I talked about, the dynamics
Hmm.
to be in on the same track, as far as what is the maximum of this song, where should we hold back, is the tempo right, can we play it slower, uh, what if we tried that kind of a synth sound here, or maybe you should have a clean guitar sound here, etc.,
Right.
etc. So that type of discussion is lots of time, and hours is spent on just
Talking.
things like that, But yeah, talking. But the actual songs, we need to know the songs, before coming to
Right.
rehearsal. So, but
Is it-
yeah, it's. I think it's been actually working pretty well lately with that.
I think it's a good time frame. Now, with the album coming out now, you have a live album you were just on tour. And you said last year was a couple months ago. In the
Mhm.
machine of the band, what is next for you? Well, because sometimes the albums go out, live album go out in between for a break or and, you know what I'm saying? Or just like
Uh,
sometimes album placement and releases are different times for bands, different periods in the career where they're like, we need a break. We need a greatest hits album or this live album's great because we're working on another album because it's going to, you know what I'm saying? Where does this fall
I
for you?
I I think, yeah. I mean, I think there was a break. There was like sort of an unwanted break. It wasn't planned, but because of the COVID and everything that happened
Yeah,
with that. I mean, the band started again, sort of, in 2019,
right.
five years ago, and then we played, and then this happened, and then there was a year or a year and a half almost that
Yeah.
we couldn't do anything. We could record, we could release an album, but we couldn't really play. We couldn't plan on going anywhere, And
Mhm.
I mean, in the beginning, you couldn't even. We came home from Japan, and on the flight home, we heard about people getting sick over there, in Asia, and suddenly a couple of days later, everything was shut down, And then
You
you
lucked out. It would have been
realize,
worse for you.
when can we play again, And no one has the answer. So we just waited, and then we made an album. But then, will it open up, and how will it open up? Will things be different, etc.? So that sort of slowed us down a bit, and we couldn't really make plans. And then everything started slowly again. But then everyone wanted to go out and play. So then sort of the stage or the scene is crowded again with people
Yep.
wanting to go out and play. So it's been a couple of I wouldn't say difficult, but strange years lately, and now it feels like we're kind of up and running again, and with the tour and this album. So it feels like maybe what will happen is that we will play a couple of festivals this summer,
Hmm.
and I've started writing already, and the other guys too. So some sort of recording this year, possibly for a release beginning of next year for a new studio album,
Yeah.
and with a slightly different concept, at least in my mind,
Yeah,
so
I just
more
wanted
like,
a loose mindset of where you guys were at. Like, so there are plans of just kind of keep the machine going now. It's going,
oh
you
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah, I think so.
You've seen different things happen with bands with COVID. Some of them actually slowed down a lot, and then some of
Yeah,
them are like hitting hard. And then if you can find the right size, and then traveling, everyone's had to scale back a little bit. So everyone wanted to rent those travel vans. Those went out the market. Nobody could get a hold on them touring because everybody was traveling and touring. So it made it hard for bands to do that,
yeah,
again.
yeah. I mean, we learned just lately that things change radically in
Hmm.
as far as European bands touring in America.
Yeah,
Because you have to pay the visa fees, and now I think they tripled or something like that, or four times,
really.
which you know that makes it really difficult for European bands to tour
I knew it was a
in.
couple
I don't know why
thousand
they do it like that, but
originally. The last time I
it's
knew it was a couple thousand. I don't know. Has that changed since then? It was a couple grand per
it
person,
it it,
4 grand or
it
something. I heard.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
obviously changed just recently, the last couple of weeks. So, and
Oh,
I haven't read about it, but I read some musicians and people involved in the
uh,
business saying that's, oh, this is going to be tough for European bands to come to America even.
it was already
Unless
tough,
if you're Coldplay, it's not a problem, but most people
right?
are
Or
not,
you're
you know what I mean?
no, you'll know, and it's not. And then what happens? And people ask, you're like, well, this would be a question that would be on some kind of Flower King forum or something. Come over to America. Why don't you do it? Or other bands. And the thing is, so you guys have the visas for each band member, and if you got to bring people with you, or if you bring gear, some rental, then you got to get insurance. And then if you bring any merch, you get taxed at the venue. Then the venues have
Totally.
been taxing you, and then you leave, you get taxed again on the way out. You get taxed like four different
Yeah,
times if you're a European band on your shirts alone,
yeah.
just coming here, not including the visa. So it's so expensive to even
I
just
know.
break even in America for any band. It makes it
Yeah.
cost prohibitive. And I don't know if the fans know that. I tried talking about it so they know it's not you guys, it's economics,
Mm.
you
So,
know?
so, so I don't know about our future in America. I think we may go play Canada, of course. We can go play Mexico.
I'll hold the fence up for you so you guys can come
Maybe.
on under it.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Go to the Mexican border.
Yeah, yeah.
Go now.
Yeah, we'll do the Canada border with a little fence. We'll hold the fence
Yeah,
for you. Come through.
American fans have to come to Europe and
Yeah,
see us play.
that'll
And
be
I don't
fun.
know, frankly, I don't know. We'll see, but it's a shame, I think. And the truth is, we haven't really toured in America in 10 years' time, even more. So it's
Yeah,
a little bit sad, but we play the cruises. We play the cruises for sure, but actual tour of America hasn't happened in maybe even more, 10 or 12 years, I think.
yeah. It's hard. I mean, hopefully something will change and allow you guys to do it or something. Make it
Yeah.
the prices better or a tour, some kind of double, some
Yeah.
kind of big. You guys need like a big bill. Someone's got to get all the bands together of a like band style
Oh,
and
yeah,
make it
yeah,
worth
yeah,
it financially. Just it's got to be somebody. I mean, because there's a lot of great European people out there that have record labels because they love music and they got the money and they're funding all these albums that they're thinking of. You know,
yeah.
we need one of those guys to put together a nice big package tour so everybody
Sure.
makes money and comes to the U.S. You know,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that's a dream. That's a dream. But I would talk about music. So anyway, this is fantastic as always. Talking, I always enjoy it. I enjoy
Yeah.
your music. It's a big
You,
part of my life. And talking, all the behind the scenes with it is great. And as I'm looking, you have so many reissues out. I'm going to go back and check out this new
oh,
album
yeah.
um,
Is it,
with Merit. And I guess the last question I'm going to ask you is, and I always appreciate is album artwork.
sorry?
The album artwork you have. You have such great album artwork and the colors
Oh, yeah,
on all
yeah.
you do it all these just in general. But I mean, we can kind of hone in on the last two albums if you want. Where does this come
I
from?
know. I know. Well, the thing is, I try to find something new. I try to not do the same thing. I mean, we had one guy from Denver that did a couple of albums for I think two albums, and we also had Roger Dean doing an Islands album,
Hmm.
and before that we had Silas that now lives. He's from Switzerland, but he now lives in Arizona, I think.
Yeah.
So he's done a couple of album covers for us. He did even the Anderson and Stolt, the album I did with John
Ah,
Anderson.
that's
Yeah,
one of my favorite album covers ever. That album cover.
yeah, yeah. That's a great one, and everything he does is great. But I try to find something new because I don't want
Yeah.
to do the same thing over and over.
No,
And
that's good
so and
to do it.
and I find, I mean, it's the same artist who did the Flower Kings live and Mary Hemmingsson,
Okay.
and I just found her online, and loved the artwork, and I think she just, is kind of some kind of digital painting or a mix of painting
Yeah.
and digital. I don't know really. And she's from Germany, and I just love the art. And so I contacted her and said, would you be up for helping us doing, or I pick
Yeah.
maybe one or two of your artworks and use it for an album? And she,
Yeah.
yes, yeah, yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
And I
It'd be hard
offered
not
her
to.
some money, and
Oh, nice.
and she agreed to it, and she just sent me the files, and it's I think it stands out a little bit, and I wanted to have something new, and I wanted to have something that someone else doesn't have, if you know what I mean.
Right. Well, yeah. It's like artwork on its own. That's what's great. It's like you see these and you're like, well, that could be just a painting in a museum or a painting here, or you know what I'm saying, or
Oh,
some nice. All your album covers have some really, you know what I'm saying. So it's
yeah,
really, you know,
yeah.
it makes it feel even deeper because if you're listening to music, you have an album or a CD cover, or whatever. And you're looking at that, and it's just nice. It's not, you know, a generic
Oh, yeah.
thing. It's you can tell there's work in the artwork on any band that does it. You put the work into the artwork is even better. It's just, you know,
It's interesting because if you think about, in my case, if I think about album artwork way back, when I was buying, I did buy vinyl at the time, and vinyl is nice because you have lots of space for your artwork.
oh
But
yeah,
you were in the record shop and you were looking, and sometimes you just find something that looks really cool. It
I
could
can't tell
be,
you how many I bought that way. How many albums I bought
wow,
that
I
were
mean, look at
cool.
Jimi Hendrix X is Bold as Love. Come on.
Yeah,
That's
yes, all
amazing.
right.
Yeah, that's very typical Indian. You've seen it many times, but suddenly
Yeah,
you see Jimi Hendrix in the middle of everything, and I love Jimmy at the time. So, or you see the Beatles, Sergeant Pepper, or you see, I mean, all these great albums. Supertramp had lots of great album
yeah.
covers, and there's so much. I mean, great inventions in terms of how you can use art to draw
I mean,
attention
yes,
to that.
yes, has some of the best album covers. But when you say
Oh,
like,
come on, come on.
right, but when you say like Supertramp, first thing you think about is Breakfast in America. I mean, you think of the album covers because the art is
Exactly,
entwined.
exactly.
It's
That's
like a hand in hand thing. Where nowadays, if you name a new album by a rock or by a band, I'll be like, oh, listen to it. But the artwork, I had to like look at it. I wouldn't trigger. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, if you talk about Emerson, Lake and Palmer, you're not thinking
Yeah,
about Love Beach. You think about brain salad surgery,
yeah, yeah.
or
He got
or
from Giger or Geiger or whatever.
Tarkus,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, or whatever the Allman Brothers band you had, eat a peach,
Peter
with
Peach.
the
Yeah,
truck with the peach and everything. And all the great psychedelic, some of the Cream album covers, of course, Jimi Hendrix and Jefferson Airplane. There's lots of great stuff, and
yeah.
some of that disappeared, unfortunately, I would say. Some of the original, some of the, I mean, it could
Totally.
be anything. There's some great Bob Dylan album covers too. Not many, but there's a
No.
few.
But if you
Really
open it
smart.
up and there'd be lyrics in it, and there'd be some tour photos in it, so you look at it, you can imagine like what was going
And
on the
and
road.
even
You know what I
even
mean?
I would say even the Rolling Stones, they were smart too. I mean, there's lots. I mean, Sticky Fingers
Yeah, the
and
zipper.
just about every album cover there was something. I mean, at least from the one with the cake, Let It Bleed, and
Yeah,
that's great
they're
stuff. And when
familiar.
you see, and once you see the you see the artwork, you hear the music, and that's the way I want it to be. The artwork is sort of triggering your mind, and you hear the music.
Well, I think so. I mean, to me, that's how I think of your music with the artwork and the pictures because it's, success, I think, on your stuff
Mm.
because your album's not blind to me. If I think of an album, I think of the artwork on the album too. Even of the album, but the visuals I have. So, you know, it's
Yeah,
great. So
cool.
fantastic. Thank you. This is always a treat. This is a treat, people. Links are underneath the
Yeah,
show as always. Whether it's a podcast or on YouTube, click on it, support all the reissues. Keep going to the website. It's a good website, actually. They got the website up. You're active. It's up to date. It's got your Roine Stolt stuff on it. Your John Anderson at the top of the page. You put all the things he's involved with. All
yeah.
the reissues on it. All the new releases are on the front page. You know, um, of course, as I look at you now, uh, best album cover ever. And he has such great album covers for you. I'm
Yeah,
just going
yeah.
through it. Yeah, I love that one. For the longest time, that was like my wallpaper on my phone and my uh, computer. I just love it.
All right.
Yeah, everything. You get tour pictures. I'm just looking at here. Great pictures. It's great. So go to the website too and support it. I don't think enough people go to
Yeah.
websites anymore. So support them. Thanks, man. I appreciate
They,
it.
they should. They should.
They should more.
They should.
Yes.
Everything is in the fast lane now, People are just sitting with their phones, and I'm thinking, I have this big widescreen, and I can look at everything, in a big
Yeah.
size, and it's a better experience, I think, Just like a vinyl is a better experience than a small CD cover, of
I
course.
do.
It
That's why I
might be.
support it. No, that's what this show's about. That's why I still support it. And take a minute, take a half hour, take an hour and talk to somebody and let's experience, get behind the albums and talk about it and
Yeah.
share them and make it more exciting and go to the artwork, go to the artists, check out the artists that you're into, go to the website and check out the music, really take the time. Music is not a rush. It's
Mm,
an enjoyment. It's a gift. Art is still a gift. You know, enjoy it.
mm.
So we'll talk again.
Absolutely.
It's a
Yeah,
pleasure. Next release or something, we'll talk next tour, big thing. All right. It's been great. Thank you, man. I
totally.
appreciate it.
Excellent. Excellent. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.